All right, at 6:00 p.m., I'm going to call the council to order. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Councilmember Foster is going to have our prayer.
So we bow our heads. God and Heavenly Father, we want to thank you again for another beautiful day that you blessed us with. Thank you for this country that we're able to live in, that we can assemble ourselves freely. Thank you for the opportunity that we have to serve the citizens of this fair city. Lord, we just pray that you will guide this meeting tonight. May the decisions that we make be in accordance with your will, the best for the citizens, and also ask that you remember the family of Dan Roberts in his passing. These things we ask in Jesus' name and for his sake. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas flag.
One other Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Y'all may be seated. All right, I want to thank you all for coming. This is our regular council meeting, November 21, 2024. All right, so I have just a few little announcements. So this week we lost an iconic member of our community, a former mayor, Dan Roberts. Dan passed away on Tuesday, November 19, at Town Hall Estates Nursing Home. I would like to publicly extend my condolences to the family and friends of Dan Roberts on his passing. In honor of Mr. Roberts, I issued a proclamation on Tuesday, November 19, and directed that the city-managed flags be lowered to half-staff through next Tuesday, November 26, the day of Dan's memorial. Dan Roberts Memorial will be held at Rosser Funeral Home on Tuesday, November 26 at 2 p.m. I'm a little worried as I held that it only holds roughly about 200 people, so you might want to get there early to make sure that you get a seat. Another announcement, don't forget our Christmas market is coming up on Sunday, December 1st from noon to 6 p.m. Right now we have about 74 booths that have been reserved. I believe we've got 3 food trucks, 2 bounce houses, pictures with Santa from 2 to 3:30, and the tree lighting ceremony will be held that evening at 5:30 p.m. City Hall offices will be closed next week on Thursday and Friday in observance of Thanksgiving, November 28 and 29. Emergency services will not be affected. Garbage services, for those that are always concerned about this, for public service, they're going to remain the same for Monday through Wednesday. If you have trash day on Thursday, your trash will then be picked up on Friday, November 29. And if you have trash day on Friday, November 29, your trash will be picked up on Saturday, November 30. All right, council, do you have any other announcements that you'd like to make tonight? I think that's it for me. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just speak for just a minute about, before I move on, about my decision to lower the flags. I did post about it publicly. I did come down here and take a video to make sure that it was done publicly and consulted with staff. I only received so far 1 complaint on Facebook about it, but just so for the record, I just wanted to say that I did not make this decision lightly. I consulted with 2 attorneys, 1 mayor who exercises this duty, members of staff, and the Keene Chamber, and my pro tem. And I'm a veteran's daughter, so I hold the military in high regard. You all heard me 3 days ago take my oath of office, where I pledged to uphold the laws of the Constitution and of this state. I've studied the flag code, which establishes advisory rules, and I am of the belief that while it does not mention mayors like it does presidents and governors, it does not exclude them either. So it is within my right as a mayor charged with ceremonial duties to use my discretion in this situation, and that is what I did. So Dan was a former mayor from 1974 to 1978. He had a lifelong love for government and politics, was very influential in this community and our county, and a Keene resident. So I would not be the mayor I am today without Dan's unconditional support. So with that being said, if any members of the public or my council would like to complain or criticize my actions, I'm welcome to hear your thoughts. But know that I stand by my decision resolutely, and the flags will remain at half-staff through next Tuesday. All right, moving on to agenda item number 3, public comments. I have 2 cards, and I'll call the first one Paul Knott.
Mayor and council members, congratulations to the new council members and the mayor. I think I would complain if you didn't lower the flag.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad to hear that, Paul.
So I'm here to talk about the Keene, the 28th annual Keene Christmas Parade and Fireworks Show. It's 2 weeks and 3 days from right now, Sunday, December 8th. It's always 10 days after Thanksgiving. We'll have some dignitary vehicles, including one for the mayor. I think you're providing your own vehicle this year, so we're looking forward to that, and for your husband Tim driving it. Is that correct? Okay, good. But wouldn't it be neat if this new council got together and we're on a float? We can provide, I've already got the driver ready, we have the flatbed trailer ready. That'd be kind of neat if I remember 10 or 12 years ago this happened. I can't recall who the mayor was, James Chapline, maybe John Ackerman or Frank Peterson, but the council did ride as a council in the parade. So consider that, but anyway, for those watching, just show up and register on site at the Leisky-Poulter Gymnasium Sunday, December 8th. If you want your entry judged, be there at 5:15. Otherwise, we start at 6:30, start right on time, and then the fireworks show will follow approximately 7:45 p.m. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knott. Mr. Brown, just a quick question for you. If we did have all the council on a float together, would we need to post a notice of possible quorum?
No, one of the legislative changes they made to the Open Meetings Act a number of years ago is that you don't have to have an agenda or a sense of quorum if you're at a ceremonial function or if you're all going down to TML or something like that. So as long as nobody makes a motion to do anything on the float, you're in good shape, but you're in good shape.
Just checking.
Paul,
Yes, sir.
if everything works out right, we should have about 50 to 60 motorcycles ending up
Oh, wow,
at
that's
the,
great, Johnny. Wonderful.
Nice.
we're doing our toy run that
Wonderful.
day, and we're going to meet back at the gymnasium
Bring them over.
afterwards.
So I guess we'll consider you as one entry, so that's $10. Otherwise, it's $10 a cycle.
Yes.
We'll have to think about that, okay?
Well, okay.
All right. Very good. Thank you, John. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm hoping we can bring these chairs on that float, because that would be awesome.
All right, Wes Schramm?
I'm ready to speak at one of the agenda.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll hold off on you then. Okay, does anybody else would like to speak? Yes, Mr. Johnson?
My name is Ray Johnson, 1009 Christine Street, Cleburne, Texas, 76031. I know a lot of people didn't like Dan, and a lot of people did like Dan. I know he was the mayor here back in the day, and I would appreciate it if the city of Keene would send flowers to his grave funeral. Would be nice if that would happen. At least let somebody know they care about the man, even
Okay.
if he didn't always do right here, so, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Johnson, for that suggestion. Ms. Schramm?
Well, I would like to say, as appointing myself as a representative of the very first class of CTA, the class of 1968, of which Danny was the president, that we really appreciate that he's been given this honor. And I've been texting people about it, and I've sent them all the link, people who might not have seen that link of your speech and talking, and I've had overwhelming response that they
Okay.
are just thrilled that you would recognize him and that the city remembers his contributions. And I loved the things that people put on the Facebook and Scott Kane's comments and things. It was overwhelming. You know, he at one time declared to us he was going to do 2 things. That he was going to own Chafe Inn, which he did, and that he was going to run for governor. Well, he didn't make it to governor, although he might have shaken things up a little bit, but I just wanted to say something. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And you're going to take over now for the 1968 class, keeping up with all the classmates like he
Well, there's a
did?
group of us ladies who all go to lunch once a month. I'm hoping it isn't me,
Okay,
because I don't know how he could how
Yeah.
anybody could fill those footsteps. It'll take
Yeah, he did. He,
many people to do what he did for us in our class.
All right, is anybody else that would like to speak during public comments? Okay, moving on. Agenda item, let me get my page turned. Number 4A, receive and discuss the city manager's report. Mr. Seitz?
Is this close enough? Can you hear me? All right. I just want to say again how excited I am to be here, and I'm actually very pleased to report that this city has one of the greatest teams I've ever walked into. We had our city luncheon today, where I got to meet the kind of the final few, some of the people that are on the ground that do the thankless jobs and make sure the city runs, you know, in times of storms. And you know, it's just been such a fun experience for me. By tomorrow, I'll have walked through and sat in every single department. I'm ending with finance, which it looks like I'll be getting a nice little intro into that this evening. But seriously, this city has a lot to be proud of with the people that serve this great city. It's an amazing group of people that are here because they love Keene. So I'm excited. We're off to a good start. Lots of things are in the works that I'm not at liberty to talk about yet, but it's exciting. There is good things that are coming to Keene, and I really, you know, I know the city hasn't had the greatest track record with city managers, and it was kind of a joke today at lunch, but I'm here as long as the Lord keeps me here, and I hope to be here for a long time, because, man, there's some great things coming. So thank you all for putting your trust in me, and I hope that I continue to prove to you why you picked me.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Seitz or comments they want to make? Okay. Agenda item number 4B, receive and discuss the fiscal year 2023-2024 year-end report ending September 30, 2024. Mr. Williams, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Congratulations to the ones who are now representing the city. Thank you, sir. And thank you for the existing ones as well. For those of you, introduce myself. I'm Charles Williams. I'm a consultant for the city right now. Our interim director is Donna Costa Morales. I would tell you that the city continued to be in great hands, passing the torch like a relay team. I used to run track, so I know a little bit about not dropping the baton. So you're in great hands. Tonight I will speak about the September's end of the year. I looked at my calendar. Last year it was the same time in the second session to do the year end. So this is a formality that is normal. It's not out of bounds of anything at this time. We're going to go ahead and do a review of that. And here you have September's. I want you to kind of keep in mind, this is the lion's share of revenues and expenditures, about 95, 96%. So there's still some outstanding invoices that'll be trickling in over the next couple months that will be gathered. But this is about 95, 96% of what we have. If you can kind of look at the top number, property taxes, I really want to shoe in on that. We increased our budget from last year, 2023, close to $330,000. We still came above that target, kind of let you know. And I feel good about that because in the budget, the council and the finance team all got together and we kind of hedgeway the target. And here we beat that target still with that. That is very, very good news. Even with the sales tax, although it's a little bit below the target, it's still pretty good, looking at about 88%. There was some little downfall during the summer months that made that number drop somewhat, but it did pick up toward the end of the year. Other things to kind of make note, building permits, the city is growing. When we reach above the target, that is very good news, and that's something to look forward to. Our city manager kind of alluded on that. The other top things to look at was court fines and fire and rescue revenues. They are well above the target on those two things, especially with court. Now that they are pushing for a lot of payments up front instead of being deferred, that's great news for the city. And I can't say enough about the fire department, what Chief Warner is doing over there and his staff, and it kind of indicate those performances through the revenue that they are gathering. They are working hard and they are working so swiftly in their responses. As you know, they got a lot of awards and accolades throughout the year. So kudos to them. And one other thing I kind of want to touch on, the bottom line in the blue. We are over the target for that. Normally that's kind of rare, but that kind of lets you know what kind of good year we had in the midst of all the expenditures, which I'm about to show you. Any questions?
Hey, Charles?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes, sir.
I thought franchise fees were a given. Did we lose some franchise fee this last year?
Yes, good point. We used to get a substantial amount from some of the communication providers, like Southwestern Bell or AT&T. They kind of indicated that those numbers kind of drastically fell off because of their competition, and a lot of people was going to other providers. So since we was with that particular provider, we didn't get as much as we expected. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Oh, any other questions? Here are the expenditures, and kind of do a quick overlay. Some of the departments' amounts is a little bit above the norm or close to the target. I can give you the reasons for those. We moved to a new healthcare provider, as you know. Blue Cross Blue Shield really hit us hard last year. We also had some issues with our server, with our financial software. We had to update that information. That cost us quite a bit as well. So with those two things there, I can tell you top of my head, it really had a huge impact on the expenses side. But the bottom line number, once again, in the blue, we are below the target. And kind of give you a synopsis, we had more revenue on the first slide, which is at 5.6 million. And the bottom slide, even with all those things I talked about, we're still at 5.4. So that's close to 200-some thousand, close to it, in the green. And that is great news for the city. But as you can see, we had quite a bit of triple digits in several departments, and especially non-departmental, dealing with TML insurance, and of course, other, the server and IT, those where most of that was hit at. Any questions? Thank you. And then I kind of touched on those increases on that. Like I mentioned, Blue Cross Blue Shield, the legal service a little bit extra. Even our appraisal district went up. Even the cost of the inspections, because it's increased now because we have a lot of homes being built, so that cost kind of went up. Maintenance and repairs, even in this building, we had, if you recall, over the summer months, it rained more indoors than outside. And then I mentioned the server and software maintenance. That's $88,000 right there. And of course, TML property insurance. But I put it in yellow. We still was over the 2024 adopted budget for the year. So those are great, outstanding numbers. Even though our cost was increased, we still managed. And And thanks to the new city manager, he took his foot off and started running. I never seen that before because that's what he did on day one. And that gave me gratitude that there's great things to come under his leadership when someone start taking off their shoes and start running. It's an old saying in Florida, of course. That means you really running. So I appreciate him.
Yeah. Mr. Johnson, did you have a question?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Let me go back.
I know when I was on council, we was having a lot of problems with the AC, spending all that money. And Brett was saying something that I think he was gonna talk to you guys about putting a new one in instead of keep putting money into it. I don't know if that's what happened or not. The council was brought up, was never brought up to me, but he was telling me that. So maybe we need to look at something different than what we're doing with the AC, because if we're gonna keep spending money, we need to do something better than what we're doing with the AC. I mean, if we keep spending money, it's just gonna cost more and more and more. And the time you get done, it's gonna end up paying for a new one.
No,
So
I don't know
maybe
why we had
council
so
need
much
to look at
problem with
that
it.
and investigate it.
I think I can speak a little bit to that this week. I think part of the problem has been that the parts to fix it have not been readily available, which they actually came in this week. And the only reason I know this is all of a sudden there was these dudes in front of my window with a ladder, and I was like, what's going on? So, of course, I'm investigating. And so from what I understand, the problem, and somebody else that knows in the more can speak up, but from what I understand, that the parts that we had been waiting for, that we kept having to just keep limping things along, finally came in, and the problem with the AC should be fixed. Now, unfortunately, we won't know until next summer, but that's what was my understanding.
Yeah, the city manager's office was very hot in there, and we couldn't get it cooled down, yeah.
But like you said, yeah, you know, maybe the part to work, hopefully, thank God if it does, yeah. But if not, you guys need to figure something out, council do.
I agree, because I don't want to
Appreciate
sit
you guys.
there in
Thank you.
110.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Yeah.
And so that's what I have for that. Any questions on that with council? Thank you. And then kind of look at the other things, like the donations. We did, the fire chief did a great job in coordinating with that and getting a new fire truck and, fire engine and a brush truck. And so his efforts came to pass and manifested itself in allowing the city to purchase these two great vehicles for that. And we really thank him publicly for that. The debt and loan, these are the information that is given. I usually want to give that in advance, kind of let you know what's in front of us as well as what's behind us. So that kind of give you a good idea with that, where the money, the tax dollars are going also to take care of things. And besides, we do have money reserved just for all of the obligations for the entire year of 24-25, so you don't have to worry about that. One thing about that, those are restricted funds. We cannot even touch that. We can only look at it, but we have to transition the transfers from their fund into those entities that is required from them, mostly Wilmington Trust. So you'll hear me talk about that, or Ms. Dinah talk about that throughout the year for that. Any questions? And then you have water and sewer funds and expenditures. You can see the bottom line numbers for this. Then also you see the capital expenditures from the water and sewer as well. I kind of want to bring that to your attention so that you can see how much is spent on capital to get them operational and moving along for this new year. So it's cost, but we still, once again, in pretty good shape with that. So with that being said, any questions? Thank you. Here's the revenue side, real quickly. That money is still pulled to the side, the development agreement. I think we have for about 2 years now, the $257,807. That money still is going to be restricted, used for sewer purpose only. We cannot touch that against the rules and regulations to touch money that is restricted. So we still have that on the side for that use. Other things to touch on, to look at real quick, our sanitation billing was above target, which is pretty good. That means there's more people coming in here. There's, the rates was increased very slightly, not much, but very slightly, but it's still great news for the city. That means we are growing, and we are growing pretty fast. I would touch on what Mr. Martin has done on the corner of that all sorts. When I go home, I smile. That means growth. So as you know, sales tax gonna be impacted as well as other things around it. Any questions? Thank you. And last but not least, most cities and almost 95% of the city of Texas do this quarterly. I have done it monthly for the past 2 or 3 years. And the reason why I do it monthly, because in the spirit of transparency, you need to know what's going on in 30 days instead of 3 or 4 months. I find it very important to you, and I owe that to you, to be accurate in my reporting and to give you fast reporting, although PFIA, which I'm under, indicates you can only do this quarterly if you like, or you suggest, but I prefer monthly because I owe it to you and to the city for that. So in the spirit of transparency, this is the month of September. And like I told council always through my years since I've been here, for a little over 5 years now, I said you're welcome to check with the Pinnacle Bank and the principals that are there to make sure every penny is accounted for. I pledge my allegiance to let you know that every penny is accounted for, and if it's not, it's on the way there because of outstanding invoices or outstanding revenue that will be coming up. But most in all, these are on the bank statements. Any questions? And then for caveat, I pulled up, me and Miss Donna pulled up every bank statement that is indicated here. Here's pooled cash. Those numbers comply to that spreadsheet that I showed you before. There's the other dealing with Keene's money market account. There's ARPA and COVID Care Act, the amounts shown. So as you can see, every amount is on every bank statement thereof at the end of the year, September 30th. This is the end of the year report that is given. If there be any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Any questions, council, for Mr. Williams? All right, thank you. I think we can move on, which you're going to need to stay up there.
Yes, ma'am.
Agenda item number 4C, receive and discuss the financial report for the month ending October 31st, 2024.
Yes, thank you. This is the beginning year, first month. And I kind of go through this real fast because it's the beginning. As you can see, our property taxes just start getting wet. It's not that much, but by the end of March, you'll see a huge amounts coming in, especially in February. So I'm not too concerned. It always starts off very slow because it's preliminary month. Sales tax, it's a little above a target, but as you can see, that'll be a steady flow throughout the year. And then just want to touch bases. The bottom line numbers, 3.7. Nothing to be concerned, that's normal. You'll see in November and December reports, those numbers start increasing, more revenue start coming in, and you'll see where a lot of expenses from the departments will be coming on and going operational. Any questions? These are the expenses. Like I said, those are real small percentage. The bottom line number, that 7.7%, is about normal throughout the years. So it'll start picking up, as I mentioned, probably January and so forth. Any questions? Thank you. Here's sales tax in comparison to last year. We received $139,000 compared to $108,000 last year. So we already got a jump on sales tax. That kind of hoping that trend will continue, and we look forward to a great year. Property tax, it increased. That's another $8,000 more than what we did last year. So once again, that trend hopefully continues. Water sewer, that's that 257,807 that is highlighted. That is skewed the amounts a little bit, because you take that off, it'll probably be hovering around about 6 to 7% of the target. But because that amount is there and you have to showcase because it's restricted, it kind of skewed the revenues up to about 12%. Any questions? Water fund revenues in comparison to last year, we'll probably be touching about rates and fees, you know, things that council will be discussing with finance direction on that. Here sewer, very similar, that 257,000 kind of skewed the amounts right there. As you can see, the expenses going on pretty good, okay. Well below target, that's what we want. And of course, here's the October bank statements, what the amounts are. Any questions on that? I'm free to answer any questions if there are. I want to thank you again.
Any questions for Mr. Williams? All right, thank you, Mr. Williams. Appreciate it.
Thank you all. All right.
Thank you, Charles, and feel free to stick around if you want.
Okay, agenda item 5, we do not have a public hearing scheduled tonight. So moving on to agenda item number 6, consent agenda. We have 2 items under consent. Council, do you have anybody want to remove anything from this consent agenda for further discussion?
I want to move the consent agenda approved as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda as presented by Foster and a second by Easley. All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Motion is carried. Agenda item number 7A, review, discuss, and consider the adoption of ordinance number 2024-675, adopting the Keene City Charter amendments as approved by voters in the November 5, 2024 City of Keene special election. Mr. Brown, you want to just speak briefly about what we're doing here and why we're doing it?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. On Monday, when you passed your ordinance accepting the canvas, by doing so, you formally accepted the changes to the charter. But the charter had not been physically changed to reflect what the voters had approved. So what this is this is the charter that has all the changes that were approved by the voters. Doesn't have the changes that were disapproved, propositions H and I. And so it basically is just the way to have a record that says what is attached here is the new charter with the amendments. It also allows the staff to go and, if they want to reformat it and make non-substantive changes make it easier to put on a website or send to publication service for the code of ordinances, stuff like that. I also made a couple of changes. At the very end of the charter, I found the original 1999 charter, and that charter, as approved, did not have the section 1118, which is in our charter, which basically says when the original charter was enacted and the Charter Commission, and typically what most cities do is they have like an editorial note or a transitional note at the end of the charter to say, this is how we got to this place. For whatever reason, there was an actual section of the charter created, attached to the charter after it was approved in '99, that talked about certification and submission, which is fine, but technically the charter is supposed to reflect only those things that have been approved by the voters. And then after the 2014 charter, because I worked on that one, there was not a section called Section 11.19 that has charter amendments. That was added by somebody after the fact, which is fine. So what I've just done on both of those is well, first we've updated the 2014 and then added the current amendments and just put a little section in there that said this section was not part of the charter as submitted to the voters, but is added as an informational note to provide historical context to the charter. That way, if anybody looks, they'll know that those sections are not sections that were voted on by the public, because you wouldn't know at the time, what to put on there. And I talked to Holly, we could have just taken those out of the charter and then created a transitional note, but I didn't want there to be some accusation that, oh no, you've taken a section out of the charter that might cause more trouble or cause more misconfusion. So we've left the sections in there, but we've just put the little informational note. And then in the future, as the charter becomes amended again, we would just add another section to Section 11.19 that would reflect the next set of amendments, whenever that comes. But I took everything that Mr. Chester had and checked and double-checked to make sure that all the changes got into the charter. Then I had Holly do the same thing to scrub it, just to make sure that we caught everything. So we're very comfortable that everything that was passed is in this charter version. And so by this passing this particular ordinance, you're just vouching that this is the correct version of the charter, and you're giving the staff the ability to make non-substantive modifications if necessary for cleanups, if there's fonts that are wonky and stuff like that. So we did the same thing in 2014 when I was your city attorney. So this is just kind of the process that we've done last time, and we recommend that you pass it this time as well.
Any questions for Mr. Brown? Yes, Mr. Foster?
Just a clerical question. I notice in the verbiage here for the adoption of this ordinance, should it not say ordinance number 2024-675?
Say it again.
In the red letter edition of our minutes?
Yes.
I mean, of our agenda? It says, I move the council approve ordinance number 24-675, blah, blah, blah. I think it should be ordinance number 2024-675, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. The full number will be 2024.
In that case, I'd like to move the council approve ordinance number 2024-675, adopting the Keene City Charter amendments as approved by voters in the November 5, 2024 City of Keene special election.
Second.
Who seconded it? Smith? Let me just take a guess. All right, we'll give it to Smith. Hey, it's your first one. All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve ordinance number 2024-675, adopting the Keene City Charter amendments as approved by voters in the November 5, 2024 City of Keene special election by Foster, and a second by Smith. Any further discussion on this motion? All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Motion is carried. All right, agenda item number 7B, review and discuss and consider possible action on the current appointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So just to clarify for the public, under consent agenda tonight, we did accept the resignation of Troy Smith. He technically forfeits that position when he became sworn in as a council member. We have a conflict where you can't perform both duties at the same time, so he had to resign from P&Z. So this item was requested by Charles Easley. Mr. Easley, would you like to talk about what it is that you want us to review on the P&Z members?
I would. I'm going to defer to Councilman Smith, who actually asked me to put this on the agenda so he could talk about it.
Oh, okay. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Easy. So I brought this up to councilmen to come on the agenda. We have two people on the P&Z board that, one, we have a Chris Rhodes who has missed almost every meeting this entire year. I think I've only seen him at one meeting back in April, and I don't think he has come since. So I did try to look that information up today, and I wasn't able to find every meeting online to be able to view them, to actually see him sitting in a seat. But I can tell you that since I was the chairman, I've only seen him one time. And so I would like for him to be removed and hopefully get somebody else in there that wants to be a part of that on a regular basis. So So that's my first one.
Okay.
The second person that I would like to see removed is Philip Jackson, due to his conduct from the September 30th meeting. I felt that he attacked, berated, and belittled Mrs. Harmon from the Kittle Group. And then I would say that he almost attempted to do the very same thing to the gentleman that came just 2 weeks later at the next meeting, where we did actually approve the zoning change for the Kittle Group. So I just feel like his conduct was very poor both of those evenings, and I just feel he's not a good fit for the Planning and Zoning Board.
Okay, so this is a 6-member board, and currently there's 1 vacant position, and now there's 2 because of you. So that means there's 4 people: Philip, Eduardo, Chris, and Miguel. So if we remove 2 members tonight, then there's only going to be 2 members left. They will no longer be able to meet because they will not have a quorum. Yes, sir. You can go ahead and step forward.
Ray Johnson, 1009 Christine Street, Cleveland, Texas, 76031. I know Troy's saying Phil with the conduct and all that, but Phil lived in this neighborhood a long time. He does a lot of things for a lot of people. I disagree with it. We should get rid of Phil. I mean, Phil does a lot for this city. So council need to look at that.
All right.
It's not just about one saying it. Everybody needs to look at it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anybody else like to speak? Ms. Schramm?
Cheryl Schramm, 1002 West 4th Street, Keene. I didn't give my address earlier, sorry. You didn't catch me on it. It's your fault. We have a very difficult time finding candidates for these positions. The board that I serve on, Type B, I know is short a candidate. I know that Type A is. I'm not sure if Board of Adjustments has a full contingency. I'm not saying you shouldn't do what needs to be done, but I would appeal to all of you, especially the new guys, if you would go and talk to your neighbors, and I know that Mr. Goutois does this, try to find people who are interested, have shown an interest. You know, we have a gentleman here who ran for office. He's obviously interested. Perhaps he would be willing to serve on one of these boards. I've pinch hit for 1 year on the past on P&Z, and I've been an alternate. I would be willing to do that again and fill out a thing, but let me just say, at my B board meeting on Tuesday, one of the members brought up that we need to spread this around because we just have so many of the same usual suspects on all these things. So I just want to put that out for all of y'all's consideration. Because if we can get people involved, and Mr. Chapman mentioned to me he may have somebody in his neighborhood who would want to be involved. P&Z can be very taxing, I know, and it can be controversial, and sometimes it's difficult. But I just want to make that appeal to all of you to try to find folks and encourage people in your neighborhoods to take part in these things.
Thank you, Ms. Schramm. Yes, sir?
So obviously, I've never been in a municipal role before, but I have sat on many boards where the CEO is the guy that sits there and kind of advises. So I feel like I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't kind of speak up here. Phil Jackson is a very intelligent man, and we all have different strengths and weaknesses. And I know exactly which one you're talking about, Troy, and I promise I'm not trying to step on toes here. I'm just giving my 2 cents. Obviously, this is my first week. I haven't actually gotten to sit up here with the P&Z board. But Phil Jackson is the kind of guy that you want because he's going to read every single rule. And I just want to share the story because when he was against it, he wasn't against it for the city. He was against it because it was technically breaking a code. And I believe that the P&Z board did the right thing by doing what was best for the city, because sometimes we follow laws and rules that are 200 years old, that no longer apply. Back when that rule was made, we couldn't do a 3-story because of what our fire department, you know what I mean? So sometimes rules don't change and get updated. So although I do appreciate what you're saying, I also believe that there's a place for people that are willing to read all the fine print, because I've had people like him on my team where I go, read this for me, because I'm not that smart when it comes to lawyer talk. So obviously I will yield to whatever, and the other thing is too, is that I would also, Chris Rhodes, I didn't know he was on that board. He was actually, I mentored him years ago. So now that I know this, he's on my personal call list right here. Guess who I'm going to razzle? Because I believe we need more interaction from our community, and I do agree with Ms. Cheryl Scram over here that we have a tendency to rotate the same people. But it's, and I promise this will be part of my responsibility, is finding people to strengthen these committees and stuff. And my fear right now that was brought up is if we strip them before we have a backup plan to move people in, I feel like we're going to be tying our hands together, especially with all the stuff that's coming into the city. So I would just advise that part of the reason you put me here is to be the business advisor to the city, so that when I sit on these boards and these committees, because I haven't had the pleasure of sitting with a P&Z board yet, that hopefully I can help with that. You know, because in the board meetings, we yielded to what the CEO said, because he was working the business every day. So anyway, I hope I haven't stepped on any toes. I just felt like I needed to speak up, so thank you.
Yeah,
I too have worked with Philip Jackson off and on for the past several years when he was a council member, and also with his dealings at P&Z. And I also find him a stickler for the rules, and that can be a good thing, because he does read everything very meticulously. He follows everything, and I like someone that does that and has a lot of knowledge in what he's doing, and he does. He does care about the city, and as far as I know, has very faithful attendance at these meetings. He is always on top of things, and like I said, goes through those packets. So I would not like us to remove Mr. Jackson tonight. I think that he's in a good position to actually become the chair of that board now that Mr. Smith has resigned, because we don't have a better qualified candidate looking at these names here in front of me of somebody that actually understands the P&Z board and what it's all about and how to move it forward to make sure it's going to help our city.
And Troy, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to remove Chris Rhodes, that's fine. I'm still going to call and razz him. But he is a very intelligent man. I've tried to hire him a couple times at other companies, and so the fact that he's not involved, I'm going to assume he has a good reason. So feel free to remove him, but I do know he's a good guy and very intelligent, and you know, so this was the first time I'd heard that he's on that board, so
Yeah.
my apologies.
And before we remove Mr. Rhodes, I would like you to reach out to him, if you could, Mr. Seitz, and talk to him and find out why he's missing the meetings. Maybe it's a scheduling conflict, and maybe he does need to resign, or maybe he's not getting his emails and forgets about them because they do only meet once a month.
And I do know he was promoted inside of Hughley, so that could play into it, you know. With more promotion comes more responsibility, and so I am very curious as to why he's not showing up.
Yeah.
Mayor?
Yes.
Just, I don't know any of these people, but I do want to echo the city manager's comments in one regard. But you need to make sure that if you take people off, that you have people to put on, because P&Z and planning and zoning is one of the few areas where if you can't meet, people can submit things and they get approved by operation of law. There's not many things, you know, most cities, there's not many rules on that, but on plats, if they're submitted and a shot clock begins to run. So if, you know, the fact that you don't have a quorum, or I've had to have special Friday meetings because you couldn't get a quorum on the regular day because members were absent. But if you don't have enough people to compose the P&Z, you run the risk of people submitting projects or plats that will get approved by operation of law because the P&Z doesn't have the ability to act on it. So I'm not commenting one way or the other whether someone should stay or go, but as your attorney, I would not recommend that you empty the boat until you've got other capable people who can immediately come in, so that you don't have that gap period and fall into one of those procedural traps where things are approved by operation of law because your P and Z was not able to meet.
And they need 4 to make a quorum, correct, in this board?
3.
Says it has,
3.
they need 3 out of the 6? Is all that we
Well,
need?
there's-
What do
Well,
we
and
need?
it's,
There's
how many-
five members and then 1 alternate.
alternate, yeah, so if it's
Oh, one's an
5,
alternate.
it's 3, right.
Okay,
Mr. Easy.
okay. Who would like to speak? Yes, Ms. Shrem? Sorry, I'm writing some notes here, sorry.
Well, I want to give y'all kudos for getting down to brass tacks and being able to do it in a very appropriate way. I appreciate that. And also, sometimes there are personality clashes. Perhaps there could be some counseling on how to interact with people. There used to be, at one time, there were handbooks for each board that new members received that sort of had some procedural suggestions and various things and I think that those have gotten lost in the shuffle. And I was thinking about that as you were talking, and sometimes some of these people, they just lay it all out and don't take into account the reaction that folks are going to have. And some of that stuff was sort of covered in those books. I don't know what became of them, probably when you moved from the old City Hall to here, they got lost. But anyway, perhaps there could be some little things like that. So I won't suck up much more time, but anyway,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you,
very
Ms. Schramm.
much.
All right, Mr. Easley?
I make a motion that we table this until Mr. Seitz has a chance to talk with Mr. Rhodes and with Mr. Jackson about these concerns of the city council.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to we have a motion on the floor to table action on the current appointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission by Easley and a second by Foster until Mr. Seitz has had time to speak with Mr. Jackson and Mr. Rhodes about the concerns that were expressed here tonight. All right, any further discussion on this motion?
Yeah, I've got a concern.
Yes, sir.
My big concern is that everybody is going, their term is going to expire in March.
There was some issue with that, I remember last time, where I think somehow it got off and everybody ended up, I think we did replace the whole board, but it should rotate. But I think somehow we did get off on that.
Can they not re-sign up?
Well, what if they don't?
Oh, well, I probably need to reach out to all of them then.
And we should alternate their terms because they're all expiring in March of 2025.
Reach out to them and see who would like to have an additional year on their term
Yep.
and who would not. That might help us alternate.
Yeah, I
with
think we
keeping
got off, we did get off
consistency.
somehow. I think we had a lapse and we forgot to. People just stayed on the board and they were supposed to have expired and we didn't.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I've been kind of getting to know these boards as I've
Yeah.
sat on them, and I haven't sat on a P&Z yet, so.
And I'm sorry, I just want to clarify one thing. Prior to tonight, I do want to say that I do have several people that want to be on that board, but they did not want to express being on that board until some changes were made. So just to clarify my position, I do have some people who are ready to step up. They just didn't want to be a part of the current board the way it is now.
I would like to see us go ahead and advertise then for, we still need to advertise, we probably already are, for the vacant positions. And now that we have at least 2 we know, we should start advertising and go ahead and encourage them to put their application in.
Yeah, and in every meeting that we have, I always try to say something in regards to that, so it's in a public forum, that way people know, but it wouldn't hurt to post something on the city website as well, so.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, yes, Mr. Goodwill?
Yes, Mayor. I have a question. Since you have been a chairman of the P&Z, how do you normally coordinate? I know you are not supposed to talk about city business to violate the quorum, but are you able to reach out to your members and check with them and see if they are available, or use their maybe the city manager to reach out? Or you just assume that they will show up?
Prior to Brent leaving, I'm pretty sure Don Martin was in charge or is the guy who would call and make sure that people were going to make it. We've had a lot of times where we didn't start the meetings on time because of people that are actually still on the board, just, don't come in on time, and it's been a little bit frustrating. I don't have all their contact information like he does, and so we just leave that up to the city staff to do the reminders and things of that nature.
And have they been reaching out to this candidate that has been a member that has been missing? or-
Yes, yep. And, the excuses that we've gotten are a little subpar, if I could say it like that. So it's babysitting issues and things of that nature, not necessarily, tragedies or good excuses to be away from what you signed up for, if I could say it like that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other discussion on this motion? I'm going to reread the motion. We have a motion on the floor to table, taking action on the current appointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission until Mr. Seitz has an opportunity to speak with Mr. Jackson and Mr. Rhodes about the concerns that were mentioned here tonight by Easley and a second by Foster. All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous, motion is carried. So yeah, if you'll do that, Mr. Seitz, and just let us know when you've had those discussions, and then we'll find a time to place it back on the agenda at a later date.
I appreciate you giving me that
Okay.
opportunity, because right now, the idea of not having the P and Z board will keep me up at night.
Okay, agenda item number 7C, review, discuss, and consider accepting the resignation of Pat Chesser as city attorney. So I believe this resignation letter came in on November 8. It's in our packet. Just reading it for the public, it says, "Dear Mayor Parrish, this letter will provide notice to the city of Keene that I am terminating my legal services agreement with the city of Keene and resigning as the city attorney effective immediately. It was an honor to serve the city of Keene these past 3 years. If you need any assistance or information while transitioning to your next city attorney, I will be glad to provide such assistance. Sincerely yours, William P. Chesser."
Mayor, I move that we accept his resignation because I don't think we need to be spending the money on two different lawyers.
Okay. All right, do we have a second to accept the resignation of Pat Chesser as city attorney?
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, who? Bob Chapman? Okay. We have a motion on the floor to accept the resignation of Pat Chesser as city attorney by Shaw and a second by Chapman. Any further discussion on this motion?
Well, Mayor, shouldn't we discuss item D before we kick this guy to the curb? Because if we can move our dates for council, then we wouldn't have to accept his resignation, and we would save the city 40%. No disrespect to Mr. Brown here, but we'd save a significant amount on our attorney fees by Mr. Chesser attending the meetings rather than Mr. Brown.
Well, he has already terminated his agreement with the city, so regardless of whether we accept it or not, he has terminated and has stopped doing duties for us, so he is no longer our city attorney.
Well, could
So
we,
this is just a matter of making it a public information so that the public is aware that we have had one city attorney resign. We still have another city attorney working for the city, but it's just a housekeeping kind of item. He has terminated his agreement with the city. He said even in his letter, effective immediately. He didn't give us any notice, and Mr. Brown has taken over his duties as our daily attorney, so.
And you can accept accepting his resignation or not accepting his resignation really has no legal bearing. I mean, when someone says, I'm done with you, I'm done with you. But that doesn't mean that if you can, if what I'm hearing you saying, if you're able to change your meeting date, that he could meet and come to those meeting date, then there'd be no problem with you just, bringing them back or reinstituting them. I don't, in other words,
if we
there's
accept
not
his
some waiting
resignation,
period.
then we
or
have to go
something.
through another meeting and putting on the agenda to have him
Yeah.
be our, just delays the process down the road.
Yeah.
Where, why not just vote on D first and see where it goes, and then we can say, we don't accept your resignation and let it go.
Was anybody talk to Pat?
I
mean,
have.
I mean, that's what, I mean, I was just telling the mayor, I said,
I've talked,
if his thought was, if you change the meeting date, I'll stay your lawyer because I can make your meetings, then that's great. If the thought process is, it doesn't matter when you put your meetings, you know, I've done my tour of duty and I'm done, then it probably makes no sense to change a meeting date to accommodate a lawyer who's not willing to stay. But if he's willing to stay, then, I mean, that's, you know, then that's something that you probably need to discuss.
Well, that's why I wanted to do D first, because I have spoken with Mr. Chesser, and he would agree to be our attorney if we would change it. He just can't do it on Thursday nights.
All right, Mr. Johnson, did you want to speak?
When I was on Ray Johnson, 1009 Christine, the problem I have with what Rob's saying, if he already gave his resignation, he's done. Why we need to change the date when they want to do that before and everybody disagree with it? All you guys are doing up here is wasting time, in my book. People out here and the council time. It's already been done. The deal is done. Just leave it alone.
To save the citizens money, Mr. Johnson.
Saving money, huh?
Yes, sir.
Is that why he was coming in on a Sunday to have somebody papers? That's money that you and
No, that
Bill-
was to serve you, sir, and now you have a bone to pick with him.
But I said get rid of them, like they need to get rid of you, big mouth. And I'll tell you that.
Anytime.
You feel jumpy. Jump.
You're welcome to stop sending me messages on Messenger as well.
Well, that's for you.
I don't need them, sir.
Mr. Easley, I need to tell you to please, Mr. Easley, I need you to please stop talking, and Mr. Johnson, please take your seat. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to accept the resignation of Pat Chesser as city attorney by Shaw and a second by Chapman. I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? I'm going to break the tie in favor of the motion. We are accepting the resignation of Pat Chesser as city attorney. Moving on to agenda item number 7D, review, discuss, and consider a new schedule for regular city council meetings. All right. Okay, you don't want to worry about the changing the times now?
Day.
I still like the day that we're having now on Thursdays.
Well, can anybody not do it on a Monday?
Well, Mr. Foster, we just had a meeting on Monday, and you forgot about it and didn't come, remember?
I
You
was
told us
here.
that story.
I was
and
here. I was
You were
tardy,
eating a
but I
TV
was
dinner,
here.
and
For the record, I was here, okay?
you showed
the
up
record-
late, but it was your meeting. You called it on that day. You're the one that chose Monday for swearing in.
And
I
don't
was
wanna get in-
asking for
Let's
Tuesday.
ask, can we do it on a Monday? Let's just take a roll call down the line, and can we do it on a Monday? I mean, it saves the city a ton of money. 40%, I think we spent $60,000 last year on one attorney and 40-some on another. That's pretty easy math to do. It's 40% of a big number that we're just kissing off because we can't change the date of a meeting. Why not go to Tuesday night?
Well, if you're speaking that we were going to change the date in order to accommodate Mr. Chesser's, then you're also saying that we're going to fire Mr. Brown because we're trying to go to one attorney. So now we have one attorney. He's sitting right beside me. So,
Let me just make it very clear. When prior city manager Brett Balta called me and said, our city attorney can't make the meetings, can you come out to the meeting?
Right.
And I told him, I got a lot of work, we don't have time for that. I said, but I was out here for a number of years, I enjoy the community. I said, yeah, I'll come out and do that, but, you know, I don't really have time to do your city attorney work. And they said, no, we got a city attorney. So, I mean, I won't leave you in a lurch. If Pat Chester has resigned, he won't do it, I'll work for you and get it all done. But I appreciate even if you're willing to offer me the full-time gig, but right now with my schedule and quite frankly, I've been doing city work for like 40 years, so I kind of get to pick and choose what I want to do, and I've got a lot of really high dollar, about 4 times what I'm charging you guys per hour on litigation and expert litigation and stuff, so it's just, for my firm, I owe it to my firm to, you know, not turn down the $600 an hour work to take the $250 an hour work here. But having said that, I will stay with you as long as it takes to find somebody. But I agree, I mean, just given your resources and your budget, it doesn't really look like I'm your long-term solution. And maybe Pat is, maybe he isn't, but just so the record's clear, I will help you as long as you need it, but it's not my plan or desire to become your regular full-time attorney. It's just not something that fits into my business model.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Brown. Yes, sir.
So honestly, if you go to my board, attorney was at the top of my to-do list, and then I finished the city charter and I found out, oh, this is something you all get to do, and I can take this off my to-do list. But I do appreciate, you're the only lawyer that I've met, and obviously I don't have I'm not passionate one way or the other, but there are some things that I would like to discuss with you guys on this attorney thing at some point, just to kind of give my 2 cents on it. And so I do agree with, if someone resigns, we have to accept it. But I also, I know what you're doing is charity work when it comes to lawyers, and we do appreciate it very much.
Sure.
And Pat may be the guy, I don't know, but this is a conversation that, if possible, I'd like to kind of do offline. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I'm still learning my way. You tell me, attorney. But anyway, so just FYI, I've got some ideas that I would like to interject to you all as well.
Yes, Mr. Goodwill?
Yes, Mayor. So I have a question. So I know we have different boards that meet on different schedules. And what impact will changing it to Monday will create for the staff and also for the other boards that normally use the same room to conduct the meetings?
Yes, they do. P&Z meets once a month on 6 o'clock in this room on a Monday. So,
Would we be open-minded to going to Tuesday? Holly's not?
No, we need to be mindful of court could go long on Tuesdays.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only issue I can foresee there.
Okay.
And then type B board meets on Tuesdays as well, right, in the afternoon?
3:30.
3:30. Yes, Mr. Dahl?
Chuck was
Oh.
first. Oh, I just said, it sounds like we need to let our city manager work on this issue before we make a decision we have to live with. I think we need to do some more research on it.
I'd like to make one suggestion that we haven't considered before, but our charter, as Mr. Brown and I were speaking before the meeting, our charter only indicates that we have to have as many council meetings in order to conduct the business of the city. It doesn't technically specify that we have to have 2 a month or they have to be on certain days. And I would like to make the recommendation that we change the schedule to the first Thursday of each month, and we do not have any more meetings after that unless we just need to call a special meeting. That would reduce our meetings by 1, and that way, if we do have a city attorney present, that's going to reduce the attorney bill, it's going to reduce the aggravation on the staff and the time on the staff of having to be here twice a month, unless we're into that budget season, and that's when we'll just call special meetings for whatever might come up. So I would like to suggest that we do 1 meeting a month. Who would like to speak? Somebody? Mr. Johnson, were you raising your hand again? Yes. Okay.
Each and every one of us, when I was on council, disagree on changing schedule.
Mm-hmm.
People, we already figured out once, people don't make it here already because of what time it is. You know, we didn't change that back to 7 o'clock where people could come. A lot of people complain. I'm sure they know it too. The reason he wants to switch it for Pat, he already gave his sign. I mean, he wasn't no good anyway. You got the best lawyer right here. He might cost more money. Who chose for the lawyers too? It wasn't just you. This man right here wanted the lawyer with him. So what are we doing? I mean, we shouldn't even be talking about it. You guys don't want it either. Just go ahead and do what you need to do and vote for it.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Schramm?
West Schramm, 1002 West 4th Street, and I wasn't going to say anything about what was going on because I agreed with pretty much everything you said. The fact of the matter is that the city manager would like to meet with you all, and I would urge that you do that in executive session this evening, so you're getting a week or 2 or whatever ahead to make that happen. And that would be my recommendation now for y'all to go into executive session so he can cover these items with you if you so desire. Thank you.
All right. You talking about to discuss this item in executive session? Okay, I don't think it qualifies, does it?
Well, we don't
Mr.
really
Brown?
have it, we don't have it listed for tonight, but they could do
Yeah.
it. The next meeting, they could do that. And let me just say something to it, and Ray, I appreciate your kind words toward me, but, and I don't know Pat Chester, but I know lawyers in my firm that do know him, and they speak highly of him, and I will say that all the work that I've reviewed that he's done give me I have no reason to believe that he's not a very competent municipal lawyer. I mean, his work is solid, it's well-reasoned. I thought I might have to call him a lot to figure out and make sure I understood it, and I didn't. So I don't know him personally, but I would just say that from what I've seen in his work and his reputation, as far as I know others in the municipal community, he's considered a good city attorney. So.
Well, the reason they want him, because they took up for him all these times. Even this guy here, he took up for. But that's beside the point. The point is, they want a cheap lawyer because that's the way they figure life, cheap. It get you somewhere. You pay for what you get. You know, these guys got so much money, they need to pay for the lawyer, not council in the city. I mean, I'll pay for you too, but I'd rather have somebody more professional than non-professional in my book. That's the way I feel. And I don't know why he's wanting Pat, but I know why, but nobody wants to agree with it. But you guys need to make a decision tonight, get rid of it.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Ms. Gillen?
Samantha Gillen, 218 West 4th Street, Keene, Texas. Okay, you already voted to accept his resignation, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't everything else be tabled until the city manager gets a chance to speak with you all, and let's just move on? Would that work?
We can see if a council would like to make a motion of that, but yes, thank you for your words.
I did.
All right, council, anybody else like to continue to talk about this?
I got a
Shaw?
question,
Okay,
and I'm new here, so I know I've fought city council from that side of the post several years ago. And nothing against Mr. Brown, but why do we have an attorney at every meeting?
that was requested by Mr. Bells last year.
I mean, we would save money if we only contacted Mr. Brown when we needed him.
Yeah, I will say that when I was first brought on, I was brought on because there was a perception that there was a lot of,
He's trying to figure out how to say this
disorder, I
nicely.
guess. You know, kind of to ride herd, make sure the council's moving in the right direction. And when I first got here, the council was a little rough, but I will say that, you know, the last 2 or 3 months, I mean, you know, it's worked very, very well. I mean, we used to have lots of arguments about, well, who could speak and how long they could speak, and now anybody wants to speak, they just come and speak, and it's, you know, I'm not sure that you need a lawyer here for every session now, unless there's something that, like, just like you didn't have one on Monday for canvassing, everything went fine. If there usually, I mean, there's a lot of cities where I'm the city attorney where I only go to those council meetings as needed, and usually that's when there's something that needs to be discussed in executive session, there's something really complex on the agenda that needs explaining. So I would say there's probably been a number of meetings that I've been here where I've had very little to say or do because there really hadn't been any issues. So that is an option that you could go in order to reduce legal fees. I mean, the mayor said maybe go to one meeting a month. I mean, we're the lawyers for Joshua. They only meet once a month. Dallas basically only meets once during the summer. So, and the charter used to say, back before we amended in 2014, that you had to meet every other Thursday, is what the charter said. And we changed that in 2014 because it technically would have required us to meet on Christmas Day and Thanksgiving Day. So now it's a lot more flexible. You have as many meetings or as few meetings as you need. So changing the number of meetings is one way to reduce costs. And then also making a determination based on the agenda whether or not you need to have a lawyer present. And one of the changes in the law that did happen a number of sessions ago, and I did some of these for Keene a number of years ago, if it's just an executive session item, you can go executive session and have the lawyer call in. I remember there was
I've done that before.
some dispute on, I don't remember, paving or something like that. I remember 2 or 3 of those because I was in my car, you know, parked somewhere, heading somewhere else, doing that meeting. So that's another option if the only reason you'd bring the lawyer out would be to receive legal advice in executive session, you can arrange that and do that by telephone and conference calls as well.
Or if something comes up during a meeting, I could call a recess, we could come out, phone the lawyer, ask, get the question answered, come back, and then continue the
Yeah,
discussion.
I'm on call for lots of different meetings where I tell folks that if something comes up, take a recess, get on the phone, call me, we'll work it out, and then you can go back and do that.
Okay.
That's always a possibility too. But no, I mean, I'd be if I hang around here for a while, and I mean that in the sense that I'm not gonna leave you, but until you figure out what you wanna do, there are various things you probably could do to help reduce the legal fees while you're figuring out what you want to do for your long-term solution.
Thank you, sir. I just was in the blind, wasn't
Mr.
sure.
Smith?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry, who just?
Are you finished, sir? Yes. Okay. I'd like to just give my opinion on a couple things, and I'm trying not to belabor the point. I know everybody's a little frustrated out there because it's going along too long, but I feel like the mayor asked about doing one meeting a month, and I feel like our agendas get too long to do one meeting a month. And so I'd still like to have 2 meetings a month. I think we need to pick a day, and that way we stick with it until we find an attorney, find out what his schedule is, and then we can come back and get that switched based on everybody's availability to see if that works, or find an attorney that's willing to meet on the day that we already currently meet on. So, I mean, if it's not Pat, maybe we can find somebody else that's able to do that. So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Did you make it a motion?
Anybody else want to discuss? Mr.
Oh, Mayor.
Ruda?
Oh, go ahead.
About the idea of moving to the first, you say
First Thursday
Thursday,
is what I said, yeah.
and if we need one special meeting or something like that, then we can make arrangement through the city secretary and the city manager and the mayor. One important thing that we have to know that because we have the consent agenda option, I don't know if I might be wrong, most cities use this as a tool to help them speed up the meetings. And having one meeting a month, I think I'm speaking from my experience with other big cities and also small cities like Keene, gives the council time to study, whoever is going to be a presiding officer, time to study, ask all the questions that they need from the administration, gives the secretary some time to study and not rush through a lot of, I wish you know how much stress the city secretary goes through to make sure that these things, every line is checked. So this will make it easier for any council, if you have a question, to reach out to the city manager or the staff, give them time to get us the feedback, and you might be approving most of these items without too much discussion because all your questions are answered, and the meeting might be a little bit shorter, as the councilman has said here, that we normally take long for most of our meetings. So we can utilize the consent agenda to make things go faster a little bit. Thank you.
Yeah, I do feel a little rushed when we have our meetings every 2 weeks, because we literally will be telling her tonight what we want on the next agenda, and she has 1 week basically to prepare it, because then she has to go ahead and be putting it on the agenda, get all the documents from it, get them from the attorney, and then it goes on the next meeting. So it does kind of keep us in a really fast cycle to where sometimes I think we don't make good thought-out decisions because we don't have all the information. And there's been a lot of times that our packets have been incomplete when she's posted them. No offense to Ms. Russell, it wasn't her fault. It's because she's trying to get staff to compile stuff and prepare it, and we're having to wait for it. And so sometimes we don't get it, sometimes until the day of the meeting or a day before the meeting sometimes. And you're right, I don't get time to study it because I work full-time. So I'm limited to my evenings where I study my packets. So I would still like to make the suggestion that we just keep to the regular city council meetings and do one Thursday a month for now, and then we can give direction to the city manager to start taking bids in and speaking to attorneys, and maybe setting up a meeting in the future where we can start interviewing city attorneys that we might want to hire, and then we can look at changing the day if we need to accommodate somebody else's schedule.
So you're looking for a motion on that?
Yeah, they're thinking and,
I'd like to make a motion.
okay,
I make a motion that we make no changes to the schedule, and that Mr. Seitz looks for attorneys, because Mr. Brown has indicated that he's willing to serve us, but in a limited time frame, is what I'm hearing. So we need to find a permanent city attorney,
okay.
so we don't need to change anything at this point.
Okay,
Second.
is that Smith? All right, we have a motion on the floor to make no changes to the current schedule for regular city council meetings by Easley and a second by Smith. Any further discussion on this motion? All in favor to keep it the same as it is now, every first and third Thursday of each month? Raise your hand if you're in favor of that. If you are opposed to that, raise your hand. And you would like to have more information on it?
Okay, so
So you
so
abstain.
it's 5, 4, and 1.
Okay, so we have
That's okay.
3, 4, keeping it the same, 2 against and 1 abstain then? Okay, then motion is carried to just make no changes to the schedule at this time. Okay, we do not have an executive session, so we may skip agenda item number 8 and number 9 and move on to agenda item number 10, requests for future items on the agenda. So we were going to direct Mr. Seitz to go ahead and look for city attorneys. Was that what you're asking for, Mr. Easley? Go ahead and have him. Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to,
Yes.
once we speak with Mr. Sykes and everything, bring up this day thing again.
Okay.
What day, our next meeting, if we get it resolved and can figure out exactly what's going on, and bring it up again.
Okay. Any other requests for future items on the agenda? All right, did we want to call us? Yes, Ms. Russell?
Sorry, one thing I left off was staff did ask for time concerning the sirens, so that will be at the next meeting as well.
Did we need to call a special meeting? Or were we going to call a special meeting for next week? We were talking about it.
If possible.
Okay.
Like I said, there's
I'd already spoke to a
exciting
few
things
council
happening
members.
for the
I'd like to
city.
call a special meeting for Monday at 6 PM. Will we need the attorney present?
I don't think so.
No, you don't think so? Okay. We need to call a special meeting, and we'll get with Mr. Brown on the wording of what the special meeting is about. But it'll be a special meeting for executive session to discuss real property. And we'll call that for Monday at 6 PM. And I would like to call it Monday, not Tuesday, because Tuesday is Mr. Roberts' funeral, and it's at 2 o'clock, and they're going to be having a celebration at Dillon Depot afterwards, so I don't know how long that's going to go. And then we're into the holidays, so.
And I do apologize, but it is very important and very exciting, so thank you.
Okay. Okay, any other items for future items on the agenda?
Can I suggest something?
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Knott.
One would be action on the nuisance house, the vacant house that I brought to your attention a while back at Old Mansfield Road in West Oakdale. The conditions of that property are just getting worse and worse and worse. It's owned by a lady in Louisiana, and I gave you her name, and that was some time ago, so I'd like to see some action on that.
Okay,
And then the clothing collection boxes that continue to provide blight throughout the city, and we're going to take action on those too.
okay.
Mr. Seitz, I know that you're brand new, but I'm not sure on the agenda item, he just requested for the boxes. I know the last time you guys met, prior to me being here, you guys had talked about trying to find an ordinance to establish that. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chesser had been working on that and then resigned.
everyone agreed that they were a blight, and yes, Mr. Chesler was working on language for an ordinance. You didn't vote on it.
Yeah, he was working on an ordinance for council to deny having collection boxes within the city, was where we left it, and we were waiting on him to finish that. Would council like to put that back on the agenda then?
So can I ask, so if it was already in the works, can we direct another attorney to just facilitate it, since we
Yeah, I can
already
pick it up.
made that?
My recollection was that there were two draft ordinances in the agenda. One of them was something that just prohibited it everywhere, other one that allowed it but regulated it. And I don't remember what the instructions were back to him to make the changes on the one that just denied it, but I thought there was already a draft in there.
Yeah, I
with-
think it was already drafted, and the council wanted it, yeah, they decided to go with the option to ban it.
Yeah,
and it was
so I don't know if it needs, other than having the dates changed or whatever, but, I mean, I'll be glad to look at it and make sure it's, accomplishes what you want to do, but my recollection was the council pretty much had already said they wanted to go in that direction, just to ban it, and we talked about that,
Yeah.
you know, once you ban it, you have to ban it for everybody. You can't, you know, you can't choose like, hey, you know, the donation box for the Boy Scouts is good, but the donation box, you know, unmanned donation box for just somebody that wants to raise, you know, money for themselves is bad, so you can't pick and choose. So I think there was some discussion about would there be charitable uses in the town that would be impacted, and the reality is potentially yes, that now you couldn't have any kind of unmanned donation box. But my recollection was the council had decided that they would go that way, and so I can work with Holly and make sure that ordinance is ready for you for your next meeting.
Okay, if you want to check and see if that's ready, we can put that on the December 5 meeting. All right, anything else, council? 7:27 PM, meeting is adjourned.